Welcome to Wise Hearts Garden. Welcome back to Wise Hearts Garden, where we plant seeds to grow you, seeds of empowerment. Welcome to today's conversation, part love letter, part experiment, part cosmic garden. I'm joined by LaRahna Hughes today. A healing architect, a writer, a founder of Repioneering Church, the International Welcome Center, Social Tech, the Global Underground Railroad. From her home base in Cuenca, Ecuador, she's reimagining what it means to live, to lead, to love, turning healing into design, truth into social technology, and community into sacred ground. Today, we're going to be talking about growth and expansion. I'm so excited to have you here. Good morning, LaRahna.
Good morning. Glad to be here with you.
I'm so, I just want to take a moment to arrive. Whew, okay. We're diving into one of my favorite themes because everything for me really is centered around self-love. And so much of the work that you do for me feels like self-love. And I don't know how you describe it, but I see self-love as a revolutionary act. It goes against everything that I was socialized and conditioned to do, to really care and honor myself. And so I've taken so much away from our time together. And this morning, I just wanted to ask you some questions if you're open to that, and just see how you feel in relation to self-love in regards to growth and expansion.
Absolutely. Glad to be here with you. So, yes, ask away.
Okay. So when we talk about self-love as a revolutionary act, for me, that looks like planting small seeds, doable actions, things that we can do. And so I'm wondering what seeds you are currently planting for growth and expansion for yourself.
Ooh, what seeds am I planting? I think like self-love, you mentioned that to a farmer, like that's significant. There's so many lessons in that. And one part of seed planting is about the environment that you plant seeds in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of the big things for me is about being planted in a place that feels like it can nurture whatever I'm doing. I moved here and, making a big change in life, like closing your business and your home and deciding to leave the continent and move to a different culture and a different country and just differentness. What really was driving me was finding a place that felt like the least resistance to healing. It was saying, if I'm going to plant my energy, plant my time and my resources into a place to support me, it needed to be an environment that was conducive for the direction that my life is going. My life is going towards more freedom and more healing. It's how many of those layers that are not truth can I take off of my existence so that when I look in the mirror, it looks like a life that's honest. And so the environment makes the difference. And moving into a place that I have found to be so much more heart-centered, so much more connected with the values of community, the values of how I wish life could be. I wish life could be where people could live honestly from their passions, and that honest living was really the loving parts of them, not the damaged parts showing up and taking over the show. And creating a home in a place that shares some of those values for time and balance. This is a holiday weekend, and there's a schedule that's like 4 days long to celebrate whatever it is we're celebrating today, the Independence Day of another city that's not even ours. And That was a part of my exploration and finding that place. I wasn't just looking randomly for a place that was nice. There's wonderful places all around the world and in Central and South America where a lot of my exploration was. But finding a place that felt beautiful to me, that felt supportive of the life I wanted to live. And so as a farmer, you know that preparing the soil for your good seeds to be planted is important. And I think that's really where this chapter of my self-love centers. Am I in places that feel good? Am I living a life in an environment that really is conducive? And for me, that looks like adequate access to sun and comfortable temperatures, access to food diversity, and having the food that's healthier for me be the food that's the most affordable. Make the stuff that's good for you the cheapest option, and it brings together my desire for health and healing in my body, but it lines up with the economics of doing life. And that, as simple as it seems, is completely opposite from the environment I left. Working in farming and understanding the technicalities of farming and USDA and laws and food security and things like the certification to be considered organic and what that means, and realizing that some of this was about PR. How can we charge more? Wait a minute. If healing is important and we're charging premium price for healing, we're taking people in the opposite direction. So creating environment. Seed planting is great. Your seeds have got to be good. But if your environment is faulty, lacking the ability to nourish you, nourish my life, then even the good seeds I've got to plant into life, into the world, are going to be hampered, and they won't have the potential of reaching the fullness that nature shows us. Plant one seed. The Christian scriptures talk about a mustard seed. It's a really small seed. Plant one seed. And I realize that one seed isn't the significance, it's the generations that it creates. The very plant that that one seed grows will produce hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of seeds. That really is the potential of what happens. If I'm in an environment that's conducive, I can give in ways that look like that. For me, that is the energy I have to put into things I'm passionate about. It's 5 books this year, and the year's not done. It's being able to have my seeds turn into fruits, and a lot of them tangible, you know? And so it starts, seeds are good, but my environment is important. This season of my life needs an environment that's rich and heart-centered and sunny and balanced. And this chapter of life is giving me that garden to plant my seeds in. And so I'm able to have fruit that others can share. Because my environment is conducive for the kinds of seeds I'm planting, and I'm planting seeds of community and healing. So that's the start of what my self-love looks like. Is my environment conducive for the seeds I want to plant? And one of the seeds that's important to me is my personal healing journey. I help others do healing, but not before, or not with the energy that I need to invest in myself. And that is bringing me balance so that my garden is feeding me. And then if you understand from garden, it feeds me, and I have some to share with my neighbors. And this chapter of life is really the growth and expansion of that in my own life. I have more to share because my environment is fertile for the things that I need. And that's different for each one of us, but I need a place that's heart-centered, that's nurturing, that's balanced, gives me time balance, gives me sunlight balance. Yeah.
Okay, well, you have covered like even more questions, and you've hit on topics that I had to ask you about, like nourishment, sustainability, environment as teacher, community. And so thank you so much for sharing that, because what I see and what I have seen actually being there with you in Ecuador is that you Okay, so this is a question because I was always curious about this before I go there. What actually happened, or if you can think back, like what was happening for you to even consider leaving the United States? Was there like one moment, or were there several things that happened and then, you made the decision, or did you actually visit different places and then decide, because of things that have been happening, this is something that I really want to do?
Yeah, the order of those things happening was I was running a farm and a farm to table restaurant. And I've been about 5 years maybe into that. It was a passion project as well. It was something I enjoyed. It supported a lot of, my living laboratory work. And it was at that pivot point where you're planning for the next season of that. And I began to really look at the next season of that, the economics, what that was going to take. You've got mortgages, you've got, payments, you've got expenses. And I began really in that point saying, okay, if you go into this next chapter of this assignment, this project, what's the cost? What's the financial cost? What's the energetic cost? Because some things, once you kind of get in, there's a big window of time for development work. We're talking about raw land. If you decide to start building community on this space in a grander scale, if you expand some of the things you're doing, then it becomes a different kind of commitment. And in that moment, I was also grappling with greater freedom. Even though these are passion projects, these things require motion. You got to keep moving. You can't just stop. I don't want to do this month. I want to do something else. You got a restaurant. That restaurant needs to probably have some hours that are pretty consistent. Farming requires, you have livestock that requires daily. I don't care where you are, there has to be tending that happens daily. And I said, what are my other options? What are my other options? And it was checking to see if I had gotten out of this assignment the lessons, the experiences that I felt were relevant. Was this time to create an exit ramp? And that's hard because when there's things that you love and you're passionate about, leaving them sometimes feels like failure. And I remember one of my friends in community, what happened to be an older lady, called me and said, she started the conversation with, you're going to close your business? What will people think? And I immediately, like, all of my healing work rose up in me, and it was in love. And I said to her, oh, thank you for even starting the conversation there, but let me stop you. And I said to her, I don't give a damn what people think. It ain't about them. Mm-hmm. None of the people that are hungry when they come to my restaurant am I obligated to feed. And like that was one of those moments that said, what do you want? Because I've learned in my path, figure out what you want and what you're supposed to be doing. And that's an internal calling and a spiritual calling kind of merged. Mm-hmm. What do you want? And the answer was, I want freedom. All of this is about freedom. I want to own my time 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it was, if you want that, is this going to give you that? No. This will occupy your life 7 days a week. When you have livestock, I don't care how vacationing you want to be, somebody's got to be there manning the farm. And I said, then the very thing you're doing is going to keep you from the thing that you want. And I said, I want freedom. And I want it now. What would it take for me to have freedom now? Well, you got to look at your nickels and dimes. You got to see what kind of freedom you could have. And I said, are there places where I could go and have freedom now? I love farming, but I ain't married to it. It's hard work. And if I could have freedom, then I could spend my time doing things I'm passionate about at a very different pace. And as I began looking, I said, I have enough resources. If I end this chapter in the quest for freedom, I can take time to figure out, because one, I can't jump into anything immediately. You need time to rest and make sure that your vision is refocused based on a new direction. You even with GPS, it says, hold on a minute, let me recalculate. You trying to go somewhere else other than where we plan to go, because you plan life and then you say, I want to take an exit here. I want to take an exit, and it says, let me recalibrate. And so I said, wisdom for me, and just knowing that I like projects, I like creating, says, give yourself a year. Finish this. And I made it a point on the 1st of May. In 30 days, we're going to be liquidated and done, and I'll be free. I'll be free. My hope was, can I stay free the rest of my life? But I'm going to be free, and I know I've got a financial window of freedom, and let me see what it looks like. And so without plans in place, my plan was to take a gap year like youngsters do for the very same reasons. Rest, retool myself, and revision for the next chapter. Give myself a year to do that. In that year, I can decide what life is going to be in the next chapter, because I couldn't answer that from that vantage point. I couldn't say, this is what life's going to be. Too much to close this out, to grieve. You leave something you love. It's grieving. My pots, my pans, my butcher block. I had a 4-foot butcher block that I could take. I was doing food, my knives, my this, my cabins, all my toys, And so I made that decision and then put all of my energy into liquidating. In 30 days, I liquidated a over 5-acre farm, a restaurant, a catering business, a campground for training and survival training. I broke down 2 tiny cabins that were part of my last project. I had to move a solar array. I had to move a 40-foot bus. I had to pull up a greenhouse. I had to sell off muscadines because they were too good to leave for somebody that didn't love them. All of that. And it was a major undertaking of energy. And in 30 days, I said, we will either be finished or we will be done. But one way or another, on May 31st, I'm done. And so it was amazing to see that and the support that came. And then I said, now that I'm done, I need to rest. And in that resting, it's figuring out where the next chapter will lead me. And so I did some of that spiritual work, and it was go find the place with the least resistance to healing, because that's what your next chapter is about. Physical healing, other healing that may reveal itself to me because it's a lifestyle. And I began looking. I began saying, if I'm going to retire, I need some new retirement hobbies. I went and learned how to ride motorcycles at the Harley-Davidson Academy. I went and got certified to be a scuba diver because I thought I could explore on land, but there's a whole other world below the sea. What if my freedom opened even that up as an opportunity? As a child, I almost drowned. It was a traumatic experience. Even going into the water is revolutionary for me on the inside of saying, even that is not something I'm willing to be afraid of, that death. Afraid of death, you know? And so it paralyzes you and you miss the experiences of life. And I began looking at places. I've got grandchildren and I want to be able to move. But if you got economic constraints, you have to be practical about that. I was looking at places like Fiji, Bali, places that were affordable. But because of the distance and the cost, I thought, if my grandson called and I wanted to grab a backpack and hop on a plane and go, economics might be the thing that stopped me. And so the very thing that I wanted to do, I might not be able to do as easily. And so I began looking at what called me. Africa was far away, and countries and places where there's active change going on. Change oftentimes creates volatility. I began looking at Central and South America. There were a lot of places, Honduras, Costa Rica, Panama, Mexico. And on a particular day, while I was liquidating the farm, I think I finished, I was in the process of getting that done, you know, internet searching. I come upon Ecuador. I didn't really, let me be honest, my geography is not that good. I didn't really know where Ecuador was, South America-ish. I pulled up a map. Ooh, Pacific Coast. Nostalgically, I grew up on the Pacific Coast of California. Oh, that might be cute. And I started looking and found some things that said people are living here very affordably. I'm talking like $1,000 a month. Really? And so I began looking. Oh, wait, they say they use US dollars, but I can't imagine that these rents really are the prices that they say. Mental notes have been made, but I don't believe it. My eyes and my logic don't match up because I'm from the America and I got, that vision. And as I was getting ready to finish out the farm, I had some battery powered lawn equipment. I didn't never use it. I had too much land to be using battery powered equipment like that. But there was a young boy, 14 years old, teenager, on Facebook in one of the circles. And he was starting a lawn care business to help his stepfather, pay for his adoption before he turned out to be an adult. And that tugged on me. I still follow this young man. And I said, and what really got me was that his mother said, I'll loan you the money for the equipment. That's teaching something. Not give it to you, I'll loan it to you. He couldn't get a job. He was too young and all that. And his mother invested in a loan to him. And I thought, she's teaching him good. She's teaching him good. He's in business to make money, This is the business, but you're supporting in ways that you can. And it's your mama, so, And I said, I got this battery. And he said in this article or post that his other friends would help him, but he doesn't have enough equipment for them. He just got one. And if he had some more, he'd partner up with some of his friends and they'd have this business and be able to earn their own money. These teenage brown boys. And I said, I was going to sell this stuff for $50, but I'll get more joy giving it to him. I got a lawnmower. I got a weed trimmer. I got a hedge trimmer. I got some those 2-gallon drinkers with the spigot. So when you're out there, I had a brand new 100-foot outside extension cord so you could plug in some of the equipment, or you could use batteries for it and you could recharge your stuff. I was going to sell it for $50 or something like that. Something just, move it kind of price. I was serious about that getting done. And yard selling and stuff is not my joy. Putting that stuff on Facebook Marketplace and all that, I'd rather give it to you than do that. And so I messaged his mother and said, if you don't mind, I'll meet you somewhere public. You don't know me, stranger lady, but I would like to gift him this stuff and support his efforts. Let's support the stuff that is taking us in the right direction. And if that's what I could do. And she said, just come to the house. Bet, I'm on it. And I went and I met him. I gave him some advice. I come from business consulting, business development, how to build your business. So I gave him some wisdom that I could share, and he was open to it, and gave him this equipment, showed him how to use it, and hugged him and says, will this take you further? He said, yeah. I said, now be on the lookout. If I find any more. The idea this boy is using green technology, these youngsters. They do it, you don't have to have no gas. He ain't got to go to the gas station, just plug it in. Give him some power and you plug it in, I'll be on the lookout. And within a week or two, on Facebook Marketplace, someone was giving away another electric lawnmower for free. And so I messaged and she says, you're the first one, come get it. I said, I'm on my way. And so in that, it was an older white lady. Not that her race mattered, but we're the differentness and this point of connection. And I said, do you want to know what I'm getting ready to do with this thing? And she says, yes. And so I shared this story and I said, now, if you give me this lawnmower, know that you were co-instigated in these shenanigans. This is what we're going to be doing. And she says, well, why are you selling your farm? And I got into a conversation with her about that. Well, what are you going to do next? I said, take a gap year. I'm gonna take a gap year and go explore. And now I think I gotta go explore Ecuador because Ecuador has come up on my radar. And she gasps and says, oh, I lived there 7 years. And let me explain why we're back. We have health insurance. We came at a time where our visa, the pensioner's visa, didn't require you to show documentation. And my husband had a brain aneurysm. And because we didn't have insurance, we couldn't get insurance to cover this. And we had to come on back because we had insurance through Social Security, our retirement insurance here in the States. And we had to come back. We didn't come back by choice. And I think you would love it. And so
Wow.
I told her about my passions, and she says, and I know some people. There's a young man that became a son, and he's a scuba diver. Let me connect you with him. So that if you go, you've got someone that you meet. And there's a man that's talking about eco villages not far from this little town, this town that we love called Cuenca. And she says, I hope you'll go see. And I said, okay, because at that month, each month I was finding a new place to go explore. And for the next month, I told her my next city is going to be Costa Rica. I got my tickets booked, so maybe after Costa Rica, I'll go to Ecuador. And she says, I hope you will. And we parted ways, and I still keep her updated with our young man who's now graduated and gone to the Navy. Just the part that we could play, you know, the two little old ladies now rooting for him. He got two more cheerleaders. And when I see a post or his mother sends me a post, I send it to her and say, we're part of this. We're part of this joy too. And within a week, I got a message from Frontier Airlines saying they had canceled the entire flight and they had sent my money back. And in that moment where you know, my thinking immediately, because of those seeds that had been planted, said, I guess the universe wants me to go to Ecuador instead. That was August, preparing for a September trip. And I simply said, let me see if a trip comes up and I can book a flight. And I booked a flight and planned a 1-month-long exploration here with a loose itinerary of cities that I felt might be calling me. And September 8th, departed for Cuenca, for Ecuador. I landed in Guayaquil. I explored Guayaquil and Salinas and Puerto Lopez. I went scuba diving. I took in the fishermen. I realized I did not want to live on the coast after that. So I took Manta and Machala off my list. Heat and humidity and distance and the size of the towns and the way I wanted life to be for me. I went to Quito, went to the center of the world, straddled the equator, and realized that for the going and coming, because I still had some commitments that I wanted to keep. I was still working as a transitioning minister at a Unitarian Universalist church in South Carolina. I had some commitments where I was going to be coming and going, and that elevation was too much for my body to feel good about. I went to Vilcabamba, passed through Loja. Some people said, you're a farmer, and there's some gringo farmers down there doing hobby farming in their retirement. Maybe you'll check it out. And I did, and that didn't resonate, but I got to Cuenca. And the very first morning, as I was going out to get breakfast after the sun had come up, I saw a man with 5 milk goats and got excited. I said, I don't know what's happening and why he's there. Are they for sale? But those are good milk goats. And I experienced right there in Rotary Plaza where the light rail makes a curve and wraps around this busy plaza. It felt alive. I had watched the people start moving. It felt like Sankofa. It was the old world, the people in their indigenous wares like National Geographic from my childhood. And it was the newness of this ultra modern light rail snaking through this town and amongst these old ladies in their indigenous wear selling peas on stoops in front of businesses along the sidewalks. And it felt beautiful. Within 2 days, the question that I had asked myself everywhere I went, does this feel like the place with the least resistance for healing? Does this feel like where you want to live? And I said, yeah, it feels beautiful to me. And I made some friends, a lady that used to live on the 4th floor of my building. And she had agreed to host me for dinner and a stay during my time there. And it just so happened that the 2nd floor, what's now the way station, had become available days before I got there. And so that department from the thinking that I was going to Costa Rica put me at the right time, at the right place, at a place that really has felt like a place with the least resistance for healing. And so I said, I had said all along, my plan was find where you feel you're called to be and then go home and figure out how to make it happen, figure out housing and then the final
Mhm.
transition out. And I slept on that saying, okay, so I need to go home and then come back and something says, you've already worked this out. Housing is already worked out.
Oh.
I got up that morning and said, what would it take? And the man says, pay your money. Say you're interested. No. Okay, so I'm interested. Okay. Can you afford it? Uh-huh. We'll pay your money and it's yours. And within 15 minutes, there was an agreement to rent this space.
What?
And by the end of the night, I had gone and got that money and said, I guess I'm a resident of Cuenca now. And then it was the going home and trying to really process all of that.
Mhm.
But it was affordable enough for me to make that decision. I could afford it. And it became really the foundation for the rest of the visioning of what this chapter was going to be. I knew it was about healing. The weekend and week-long retreats I had been doing in other facilities, I knew that I wanted life to come to me.
Mhm.
I knew I wanted to be barefoot and sarong as much of my retirement life as I could. And that means healing needs to come to me. It needs to be here in the space where I'm building a life that fits me and my needs. And having space, generous space,
Mhm.
to be able to begin that work was the foundation of this chapter of passion projects, of the International Welcome Center, of creating a space for others to come and feel the place of least resistance for healing, but also to be able to ground this work of healing, the work of literally being the International Welcome Center, a welcome center to a new paradigm, a welcome center to a new level of freedom. But the other part that was really important was healing is supposed to free you to be you,
Mhm.
free you to live the life that you want to live. If I wake up today, is this the life I'm choosing for myself, or am I living this life that I feel I have to live? And for me, it's about living that experience of being exactly where you want to be until you decide to do something else, because change is a right that I have too. And being able to be in a place that where I wake up and say, I'm here because I absolutely want to be. And I could be anywhere in the whole wide world. My children are adults. I'm responsible for nothing and no one except for me. If I choose to give all of my energy to myself, I can do that. And my healing is letting me do it without guilt. Am I living the life I'm saying healing takes you to? And the answer on every day in this chapter is yes. And if the answer is no, then I can say, well, then don't do it. Or decide that you want to do it and you're willing to pay the cost of doing it. And it has everything that I wanted it to be. It's been more. I didn't understand about being in a place that would center me as a brown person. I didn't understand what economic freedom really means, where anything you want to do, you probably could afford to do it. Oh, wait, now I just have to decide what I want to do. I want to go eat and pay $2.50 for my lunch. That's what I want to do. That gives me joy. I want to go spend 25 cents, take that nice shiny quarter and go get me an ice cream cone. It gives me joy just the fact that I could take that quarter and get that ice cream cone and lollygag on back to my house like a little skipping child. I get to decide what I need when I'm tired. To be able to say, I'm gonna sit in this chair and do nothing. If I'm gonna scroll funny videos on YouTube, just to be able to have that white space of refueling, I can do that. And what if I could live life from the place of freedom? Then the things I do are things I'm passionate about. I either want to, or I'm passionate about, or I feel called to do it, or I don't do it. Life now becomes a playground where it is full of the things I want to do, feel passionate about, or feel called to do.
Mhm.
And only those things as much as possible. And that for me is what I talk about when I talk about the benefits of healing and why community needs it. What if you and I are doing those things that we're passionate about and we find the points of connection that overlap? We had a point of connection. You were passionate about your own healing. I am passionate about helping older women support and undergird with some better tools for how they can do that more efficiently, more effectively. How can we get all the way to the core? How can we do it faster? And we found a point of connection that had you down here
Mhm.
and saying, in life, if I'm living from that place of honesty, of passion, of purpose, and I find others where we find a point of connection for our lives to overlap, and we do that stuff together, life starts feeling different. Life starts feeling like a thing I want to wake up for because I'm excited about
I
getting
know that.
day. I'm excited to see what the day might offer and all the unfoldings that come with that. What if we began healing life from that place? And part of this chapter has been all the work on the parts of fixing community. What if we put that together and began building those places globally? Places where people go and there's a language they understand, and it's a language of healing. It's a language that gives us the ability to take ownership of communicating who we are, where we remove those fears of being known. We remove that from our life and we align. What if we could begin to create places that were supportive? The chosen tribes, the chosen families, where it was about the support, it was about the healing, it was about the passion living. Because the healing is just a tool to really, the goal is, what if we were living honestly, not from our damage, from honest, from passion? If we were living from the place of passion and the loving self, which is what's underneath, I believe, would we be able to collectively fix what's wrong? This doesn't fix what's wrong. It says, how are we even equipped to be able to? And what if we were tackling the parts of our own existence that we're passionate about? If food and healing and motion are the things you're passionate about, what if you could just be that and offer that to the world, offer that to humanity? And so it's about doing it for me. And so the path to get here was about vision. It was about seeing a way of life and saying, what do I need to do to have that life? For me, the economics is a big part of freedom. Can I own my life 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Sometimes it's, can you afford to? And for me, it has always been, what's the quickest, fastest way I can get there? Quickest, fastest way. Yes, I could have stayed working. I could have made a whole lot more money. 5 years, 10 years, waiting for Social Security, 20 years. Who knows how long that's going to be, if it's even an option. How can I do it now? Because my life's valuable. I want to do that kind of passionate living now. And so this became the opportunity to embrace that. And so it wasn't a straight path. It was saying, I want freedom. What will it take for me to have it? Leaving your farm. Oh, but I love it. But I love freedom more.
So
And
from the time you, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
from the time you went to Cuenca and then went back home, how long was it before you returned?
So I signed a lease before I left. And then I came home at the end of September and felt like I got stuck. There were some loose ends I didn't finish. There was some writing work that I had to just finish, and I couldn't move out of that space to do it. And so it took me until the end of December to really feel like I had closed those things to be free. And right after my grandson's birthday in January, I was back.
Okay.
I was back. So it took me about 3 months of closing out, October, November, and December. I was
Okay.
closing out, I was finishing up a book, and felt that sense of, okay, now you're free to go. And so it was about 3 months to make that close down of life, because I hadn't planned. I planned to go back home and then find housing, and it just worked out in that timing. So about 3 months to be able to come back, and I've been here full time ever since.
God, you touched on so much, LaRahna, and I'm just like, okay, let me get back to for me, listening, it sounds like self-love was the reason. Like that's what I hear. Through all the choices that you make, that you centered yourself and what it was that you needed or wanted. And so I guess I just have one final question. If you can offer one seed of wisdom to someone standing at the edge of their own new beginning, that they are choosing self love and a new direction, that they really want to center themselves, what would that one seed of wisdom be?
Decide on your non-negotiable. Decide on the non-negotiable of what expectations for life you have. For me, my non-negotiable, I want to own 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and never have to be involved in activities simply because I'm chasing dollars. That was my non-negotiable. It's different for other people.
Right.
But when you know what life has to be, figure out then how to make that happen. And if there's fear standing in the way, deal with those first. Deal with those first, because if you deal with that first, the only choice you have to make is a choice. Do I want to do this? It's not because my fears stop me, but even sometimes the courage to deal with the fears has to do with what your non-negotiable is. Now I do healing because my non-negotiables. If I'm going to stay free, healing is what keeps me free. So I'm not operating out of the fear of money, fear of lack, fear of whatever. Find your non-negotiable. Make it a non-negotiable. Life will be this, or I will die trying. And see where that takes you. It's going to force you to dream. It's going to force you to be honest. Write it down if you need to, and make sure it's honest. This is what I want my life to be. Yeah, non-negotiable. Create a non-negotiable for your life.
I thank you so much for your time this morning. I thank you for sharing everything. I'm so grateful for my time in Cuenca to actually see possibility again, and to make my own decisions, which is what I'm working on. So I just want to say thank you for all the seeds I know you have planted with everything that you have shared. Is there anything else that you would like to share?
My pleasure. Thank you for doing your work. Thank you for sharing your journey. Part of coming down here was about having the courage to share parts of your healing experience. There's a song that's spinning for me. Eric Benet and India Ari have a song. It's a love song, but there's a part of it that says, normally I don't talk about it. Normally I don't share, but it's so good. I just have to testify. And I think about that with sharing your experiences and sharing the freedom. So thank you for being courageous and taking those steps in this social space of sharing in your life and your journey to healing and to growth and expansion. Thank you for planting good seeds. Good seeds try their best to grow.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for providing the opportunity for me to come to Ecuador for the healing work. Thank you for all the work that you are doing towards healing individually for people, which is going to trickle out to the collective. That's my belief, is that everyone has to do that themselves. And so thank you again. And may you experience all that you want in this beautiful Saturday. I look forward to next time.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay.